The moment humans abandoned peace. The Galactic Council. New disaster was coming. Part 1. First contact gone. Wrong Commander Adam Mitchell stood at the viewport of the Earth diplomatic vessel, Harmony, watching the stars blur as they approached. Proxima Centauri B. His weathered face reflected in the glass, eyes fixed on the distant point where the human colony waited. 15 years of peaceful relations with the Galactic Council had led to this moment, responding to the first distress call from a human settlement. "Commander, we're receiving updated transmissions from the colony," said Communications Officer Sammy Weber, her voice tight with concern. "It's not good." Adam turned away from the viewport. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, showing a dusty street lined with prefabricated buildings. The camera shook violently as it moved, carried by someone running. Screams echoed in the background. Then came the first glimpse of the attackers, scaled creatures moving with frightening speed on all fours, their elongated bodies covered in natural armor. "Dravek," Adam said quietly. "Freeze image." The picture stopped on a clear view of one of the alien attackers. The Dravek had joined the Galactic Council just 3 months ago, presented as a newly discovered spacefaring species eager to join. "Galactic Society. How long until we arrive?" Adam asked. 4 hours at current speed," replied the pilot. Adam pressed a button on his chair. "Dr. Warren to the bridge." Dr. Lisa Warren arrived moments later, her research tablet in hand. She was the ship's xenobiologist and first contact specialist, with more field experience than anyone else on board. "You've seen the transmission?" Adam asked. She nodded. "The Dravek shouldn't be anywhere near this system. Their territory is 17 light-years away. Yet here they are, attacking one of our colonies," Adam said. "The Council assured us they were peaceful." Lisa's expression darkened. "The Council says that about every species." Adam turned to his second-in-command. "Prepare the rescue teams, full defensive loadout." "Sir, the Council protocols—" "I know the protocols, but I won't send our people down there unprotected." The next 4 hours passed in tense preparation. When they finally reached orbit around Proxima Centauri B, smoke was visible rising from the main settlement. The landing party found devastation. Bodies lay in the streets, men, women, and children. Buildings burned. The Dravek had left nothing standing. Dr. Warren moved through the ruins, documenting everything with her scanner. "Commander," she called out, her voice hollow. "You need to see this." Adam crossed the debris-filled street to where Lisa knelt beside a row of bodies. "Look at the wounds," she said, pointing to the slash marks. "These aren't random attacks, the cuts are precise, right across major arteries. And look here." She gestured to a building with its door torn off. They bypassed the storage facilities completely. They went straight for the living quarters. Adam understood immediately. They weren't raiding, they were hunting. These weren't the actions of rogues or pirates, Lisa confirmed. This was systematic. They knew exactly where to hit us and how. They found survivors hiding in an underground shelter. Among them was Frank Harris, the colony's administrator, a middle-aged man with haunted eyes. "They came without warning," Frank explained as a medic treated his injured arm. "No demands, no communication, just started killing. Our security team tried to fight back, but their weapons barely slowed them down." "How many survivors?" Adam asked. "Just the 12 of us," Frank replied. "Out of 300. Adam's jaw tightened. "We'll take you back to Earth. You'll be safe there." After securing the survivors on the Harmony, Adam called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. "This was a deliberate attack on a peaceful human settlement," he told them. "We need to report this to the Galactic Council immediately." "Do you think they'll do anything?" Lisa asked. "The Dravek are their newest members. The Council won't want to admit they made a mistake." "They'll have to when they see our evidence," Adam insisted. 3 days later, the Harmony docked at the massive Galactic Council station orbiting Procyon. The station was a marvel of engineering, home to representatives from over 60 spacefaring species. Humans had been the 61st to join, welcomed with great ceremony 15 years ago. Counselor Zixtar met them in the diplomatic reception area. The tall, thin alien's forearms were folded in the traditional greeting position, but Adam noticed the slight tilt of his head that indicated discomfort. "Commander Mitchell," Zixtar said, "we received your message. A most unfortunate incident." "Incident?" Adam echoed. 288 humans were slaughtered. "A regrettable cultural misunderstanding, perhaps," Zixtar suggested. "The Dravek are still adapting to council norms." Lisa stepped forward. "We have evidence this was a planned attack. They specifically targeted civilians." Zixtar's outer eyelids fluttered rapidly. "Such serious allegations require careful consideration. The council will review your evidence and consult with the Dravek representatives." "How long will that take?" Adam demanded. "The proper protocols must be followed," Zixtar replied. "Perhaps several of your Earth weeks." Adam fought to control his temper. "While you discuss protocols, our other colonies could be at risk. We need defensive measures approved now." The non-aggression pact that Earth signed upon joining the Council clearly states that military operations require full Council approval, Zixtar reminded him. "We cannot have individual species taking matters into their own hands. It would create chaos." "Then give us the approval," Adam pressed. "The Council must deliberate," Zixtar insisted. "These matters are complex." 3 days of meetings followed. Adam presented their evidence to increasingly disinterested council members. The Dravek representatives weren't even required to attend. Meanwhile, Dr. Warren discovered something disturbing. "The Dravek have filed 17 exploration permits in the last month," she told Adam, "all for systems near human colonies." Adam immediately requested an emergency session with the full council. Only a third of the representatives bothered to attend. "These permits suggest the Dravek are planning more attacks," Adam explained, pointing to the star map. "We need immediate action." Counselor Zixtar raised a hand. "Commander, exploration is a fundamental right of all council members. Without evidence of hostile intent, we cannot restrict movement." "We brought you evidence of their first attack," Adam shouted, frustration finally breaking through. "Evidence that requires verification," Zixtar responded calmly. "The process cannot be rushed." As they left the chamber, Adam received an urgent transmission from Earth. His blood ran cold as he read it. "What is it?" Lisa asked, seeing his expression. "Another colony has been attacked," Adam said quietly. "New Montana, population 412. "How many survivors?" Lisa asked. Adam looked up, his eyes hard. "None." While the Galactic Council continued to debate, humanity had learned a harsh lesson. In the emptiness of space, peace was only possible when all sides valued it equally. The moment humans abandoned peace, the Galactic Council would discover just how dangerous a species could be when pushed too far. 2. The moment humans abandoned peace, the Galactic Council knew disaster was coming. Part 2. The Breaking Point President Jack Nelson sat at the head of the emergency session table, his normally calm face lined with tension. Around him, the 12 members of Earth's Security Council watched the screens showing the destruction of New Montana colony. The satellite images revealed burned buildings and bodies scattered across the settlement. No movement, no survivors. "That's the second colony in 2 weeks," said Admiral Catherine Ross. Her gray-streaked hair was pulled back tightly, her uniform crisp despite being called to the meeting in the middle of the night. 300 at Proxima Centauri, 400 at New Montana. "And the Galactic Council's response?" President Nelson asked. Commander Adam Mitchell, newly returned from the council station, stood up. "They're still reviewing our evidence from the first attack, sir. They say proper procedure takes time." "Time we don't have," Admiral Ross said. "Our intelligence suggests the Dravek are preparing to move against Highland Colony next. 800 civilians there, mostly families." The room fell silent. Then the door opened and a young man was escorted in. His clothes were simple, his face dirty and lined with exhaustion. "This is Eric Collins," Commander Mitchell said. "He was working outside the New Montana settlement when the attack began. He's the only survivor. Eric Collins looked around the room nervously. His hands trembled as he sat down. Mr. Collins, President Nelson said gently, we understand this is difficult, but we need to hear what you saw. Eric nodded slowly. I was repairing a water pump about 2 miles from the main settlement. I heard the ships before I saw them. 3 of them, bigger than our supply shuttles. He paused, taking a shaky breath. They landed right in the center of town. The Dravik came out organized, with weapons. They weren't just attacking randomly, they had maps. They knew where everything was. Maps? Admiral Ross asked sharply. You're certain? Yes, ma'am. I saw one of them holding something like a tablet, directing the others. They went straight for the communications center first, then the power station. After that, his voice broke. After that, they started going house by house. What did you do? President Nelson asked. I hid. I hid in a drainage pipe until dark. Then I made it to the emergency shuttle at the backup landing site. Tears filled his eyes. I should have done something. My wife and daughter were in town. No. One spoke for a moment. Then Admiral Ross broke the silence. Sir, we can't wait for the council. We need to deploy defensive forces to our remaining colonies immediately. President Nelson nodded. What about the non-aggression pact? To hell with the pact, Admiral Ross said, earning surprised looks from around the table. Excuse my language. Mr. President, but the pact means nothing if we're all dead. Commander Mitchell cleared his throat. There's something else you should know, sir. During my last meeting with the council, I managed to plant some listening devices. That violates at least 3 council laws, a legal advisor said from the corner of the room. Given the circumstances, I took the risk, Mitchell replied. He placed a small device on the table and pressed a button. A voice filled the room, speaking in the distinctive tones of Grand Arbiter Tlacon, the senior member of the Galactic Council. The humans are becoming problematic. They expect military response to every minor border incident. Another voice, recognizable as Counselor Zixtar. The Dravik claimed they were merely conducting resource surveys. On human colonies? Asked a third voice. The Dravik representative assures me their actions were justified. Besides, humans breed quickly. The loss of a few colonies will hardly affect their population. And it might teach them to know their place, added yet another voice, followed by what sounded like laughter. President Nelson's face hardened as Mitchell turned off the recording. How many council members were in that conversation? 8, sir, including representatives from the 3 eldest species. The room erupted in angry voices until President Nelson raised his hand for silence. Admiral Ross, what is the status of Project Nova Shield? Admiral Ross straightened. The defensive system is operational at 4 colonies. We have equipment to deploy at 6 more. And the Nova ships? 8 completed, sir. 3 more will be ready within the month. For 15 years, humanity had publicly followed the Council's technology restrictions. Privately, they had continued to develop defensive systems, hiding them in remote locations throughout human space. It was insurance that many had hoped would never be needed. Deploy everything, President Nelson ordered. I want every human colony protected within the week. Put the fleet on full alert. Sir, the legal advisor interjected, the consequences from the council will be dealt with. President Nelson finished. Better to ask forgiveness than permission, especially when permission means watching our people die. 3 days later, as human military ships moved openly through their territory for the first time in 15 years, President Nelson addressed the Galactic Council in an emergency session. The massive council chamber was filled with representatives from all 61 member species. For 15 years, humanity has honored the non-aggression pact. President Nelson began. We came to you with evidence of unprovoked attacks on our colonies. We followed your procedures. We waited for your deliberation while more of our people died. He looked around the chamber, meeting the alien gazes. The recording you just heard proves that some council members not only dismissed our concerns but found amusement in our losses. This is unacceptable. Grand Arbiter Tlacon stepped forward, his tentacles writhing in agitation. This recording was obtained illegally. It violates our privacy laws. Your privacy? President Nelson's voice rose. 700 humans are dead. Does their privacy, their right to live, mean nothing to this council? We understand your distress, Counselor Zixtar said soothingly, but these matters require proper— No more procedures, President Nelson interrupted. No more delays. As of this moment, Earth formally withdraws from the Non-Aggression Pact. The chamber erupted in shouts and exclamations. Council members rose from their seats, some in anger, others in fear. Grand Arbiter Tulkan raised all four of his appendages for silence. President Nelson, do you understand what you are doing? Without the Pact's protection, Earth stands alone. We've always stood alone, President Nelson replied quietly. We just didn't know it until now. As President Nelson turned to leave, a message reached Admiral Ross, who was standing at the back of the chamber. She quickly made her way to the president and whispered in his ear. His face grim, President Nelson returned to the podium. I've just received word that the Dravek attacked Highland Colony this morning. He paused, letting the news sink in. But this time they found it defended. Their ships were destroyed and their ground forces captured. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Humanity protected its people when this council would not. President Nelson continued. Remember this moment. It didn't have to come to this. With that, the human delegation walked out of the council chamber, leaving chaos in their wake. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced a species that refused to accept their authority, and they had no idea what would happen next. The moment humans abandoned peace. The Galactic Council knew disaster was coming. Part 3, Preparing for War Major. Steve Rodriguez watched as his special operations team ran through the combat course. The men and women moved with precision, their movements fluid and practiced. For years they had trained in secret, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth. Now they were finally able to train in the open. They're good, said Chris Morgan, standing beside him. As Earth's chief intelligence officer, Morgan rarely left his office. Today was different. But are they good enough? Against the Dravek? Yes, Steve replied. Against the entire council? That remains to be seen. The Galactic Council had responded to Earth's withdrawal from the Non-Aggression Pact with threats of sanctions. So far that was all. But human intelligence suggested they were planning more. Admiral Ross wants you in the war room, Chris said. Dr. White is ready to show her new toys. The war room was 30 levels down, protected by layers of security. When Steve and Chris arrived, Admiral Catherine Ross was already there with President Nelson and several other high-ranking officials. At the center of the room stood Dr. Amanda White, Earth's leading weapons researcher. Thank you all for coming, she said. Her voice was soft, but everyone listened carefully. For 15 years we've been developing technologies in secret, staying just within the limits of the Non-Aggression Pact while preparing for a day we hoped would never come. She pressed. A button and a holographic display appeared showing a satellite-like device. This is the Nova defense system, Amanda explained. Each unit can track up to 1,000 objects in space simultaneously. Its energy shield can deflect any weapon the Council races currently possess, and its countermeasures can disable enemy ships without destroying them. How many do we have? President Nelson asked. 56 completed units, Amanda replied. Enough to protect all our colonies and key positions in our territory. And offensive capabilities? Admiral Ross asked. Amanda pressed another button. The display changed to show a sleek ship design, the Defender-class warship, faster than anything the Council has, armed with pulse weapons that can penetrate any known shield. We've built 12 so far, with 8 more nearly complete. Steve stepped forward. What about ground forces? The Dravek have superior numbers. We have something better than numbers, Amanda said with a slight smile. She nodded to an assistant, who brought forward what looked like a simple wristband. This is the Edge system. It enhances human strength, speed, and reaction time. One soldier wearing this can match 5 Dravek in combat. You've been busy, Doctor, President Nelson said, examining the device. We all have, sir, she replied. We just hoped we'd never need to use any of this. As the meeting continued, a new alert came in. Chris Morgan checked his tablet and frowned. Sir, we've intercepted Council communications. They're planning to establish a blockade around our territory. He looked up, his expression grim. They're calling it a containment action to deal with the human problem. The room fell silent. Then Admiral Ross spoke up. When? Fleet movement suggests 3 days, Chris replied. Then we have 3 days to prepare, President Nelson said. Admiral, activate all defensive systems. Major Rodriguez, deploy your teams to key colonies. Dr. White, I want everything you have ready for combat. As everyone began to move, the door opened and a non-human figure entered. Ambassador Valara was tall and slender, with iridescent skin that shifted colors with her moods. As a Tellarite, she represented one of the younger Council species. Ambassador, President Nelson said in surprise, I thought you would have left with the other Council representatives. I stayed because my people remember what it was like before we joined the Council, Valara said. Her skin rippled with blue tones of concern. The elder races treated us much as they now treat you. Why are you here? Admiral Ross asked suspiciously. To warn you. The blockade is just the beginning. The Council plans to make an example of Earth. They fear your independence might inspire other younger races. Like yours? Steve asked. Valara's skin flushed purple briefly. Perhaps, but I'm here because what they plan is wrong. Humans have been honorable allies to my people. What exactly are they planning? President Nelson asked. They will use the blockade to cut off your colonies, then demand your complete disarmament. If you refuse, they will authorize the Dravek to conduct what they call police actions against your outposts. More massacres, but with official approval, Admiral Ross said, her voice hard. Valara nodded. I must return before my absence is noticed. But know this, not all Council species support these actions. Some of us remember what it means to stand alone. After Valara left, President Nelson looked around the room. It seems our time is shorter than we thought. We need to prepare not just for the Dravek, but for possible action from the entire Council. Sir, Steve said, my teams are ready to deploy, but we need more time to prepare the colonies. Time is something we don't have, Admiral Ross replied, but perhaps we can buy some. The plan came together quickly. While Major Rodriguez's special forces deployed to the outer colonies, Chris Morgan's intelligence agents planted false information, suggesting human forces were still mobilizing. Meanwhile, Dr. White's teams worked around the clock, activating defensive systems that had lain dormant for years. 3 days later, the Galactic Council fleet approached the edge of human space. 50 ships from 12 different species, led by the massive Arbitration, the Council's flagship. Their mission was to establish the blockade and force humans back into compliance. What they didn't know was that humans had been establishing hidden outposts throughout their territory for years. As the Council fleet moved into position, these outposts activated, revealing defense platforms and armed ships that had been invisible to Council sensors. On board the human command ship Defiance, Admiral Ross watched the tactical display. All Nova defense systems are online, reported her second-in-command. All colonies are protected. And the special response teams? Deployed and ready, Admiral. Major Rodriguez reports all positions secure. Admiral Ross nodded and opened a channel to Earth. President Nelson's face appeared on the screen. The Council fleet has arrived, Mr. President. They're establishing positions for the blockade. Any hostile actions? He asked. Not yet. They seem surprised by our defensive positions. Good. Let them see that we're not as helpless as they thought. President Nelson's expression was resolute. Remember, our goal is deterrence, not war. We want to be strong enough that they'll think twice before attacking us. And if deterrence fails? Admiral Ross asked. Then we show them why humans have always been survivors, President Nelson replied. For thousands of years we fought each other on Earth. We know war better than any species in the galaxy. Let's hope the Council is wise enough not to make us prove it. As the human forces took their positions, Admiral Ross addressed her fleet. The words echoed across every human ship and colony throughout their territory. For 15 years we played by their rules. We sought peace and cooperation. We believed in the promise of the Galactic Council. Now we know that promise was empty for species like ours. She looked at the faces of her crew, determined and ready. Today we stand for ourselves. Not because we want war, but because others have forced it upon us. Remember why we fight, not for glory or conquest, but for the right of humans to live in peace. And if the Council wants to test our resolve, they will learn that the most dangerous thing in this galaxy is a human with something to protect. The moment humans abandoned peace, the Galactic Council knew disaster was coming. Part 4. First Strike Captain Olivia Grant stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution, watching the stars through the main viewport. Behind her, the crew worked, at their stations with quiet efficiency. They had trained for years for this moment, though they had hoped it would never come. "Captain," called Lieutenant Paul Harris from the tactical station. "Long-range sensors are picking up movement at the edge of the Epsilon system." Olivia moved to his station. "Dravek?" "Yes, ma'am. A large fleet. At least 30 ships." Paul's fingers moved over the control panel, bringing up detailed scans. "They're on a direct course for the mining colony on Epsilon 4. Epsilon 4 was home to 300 human miners and their families. After the attacks on other colonies, they had been evacuated to an underground shelter, but they couldn't stay there forever. "Alert Admiral Ross," Olivia ordered, "and prepare battle stations." For 3 tense days, the Galactic Council blockade had held position at the edge of human space. No shots had been fired, but the message was clear. Humans were to be contained. Now it seemed the Dravek had grown impatient. Admiral Ross's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Grant, our intelligence confirms the Dravek fleet is preparing a major assault. They believe the Epsilon system is lightly defended." "They're in for a surprise," Olivia replied. "Indeed." Admiral Ross nodded. "Your orders are to proceed with Operation First Light, prevent the Dravek from reaching Epsilon 4 at all costs." "And the Council blockade?" "They're officially claiming the Dravek are acting without authorization." Admiral Ross's expression hardened. "But we know better. This is their way of testing our defenses without directly involving themselves." "We won't disappoint them," Olivia said. As the communication ended, Olivia turned to her crew. "Battle stations, prepare to move out." The Retribution was one of humanity's newest warships, built in secret over the past decade. Its sleek design hid powerful engines and weapon systems far beyond what the Council believed humans possessed. 2 sister ships, the Valiant and the Defender, joined formation as they moved toward the approaching Dravek fleet. "They haven't detected us yet," Paul reported. "Our stealth systems are holding." "Good," Olivia replied. "Weapon status?" "Nova pulse cannons charged and ready. Shield generators at full power." Ryan Peters, a civilian engineer who had helped design much of the ship's advanced technology, stood at an auxiliary station. "The shield-penetrating rounds are armed and—" "Ready, Captain?" "They should bypass the Dravek defensive screens completely." Olivia nodded. "Communications, patch me through to all ships." When the connection was established, she spoke clearly. "This is Captain Grant. For years, we've prepared for a day we hoped would never come. That day is here. The Dravek believe they're hunting helpless prey. Today they learn that humans are not prey. We are not weak. We are not unprepared. Execute Battle Plan Alpha. No mercy for those who showed none to our colonies." The 3 human ships accelerated toward the Dravek fleet, still hidden by their advanced stealth technology. They closed half the distance before the Dravek sensors finally detected them. "They're adjusting course," Paul reported, raising shields and charging weapons. "Too late," Olivia said grimly. "Fire Nova pulses. Target their lead ships." Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the human vessels, striking the front line of the Dravek fleet. The alien shields flared, briefly, then collapsed under the assault. 3 Dravek ships exploded in silent bursts of light. "Enemy is returning fire," Paul called out as the bridge shook from a glancing hit. "Shields holding at 96%, reported the defensive systems officer. "Deploy shield penetrators on their second wave," Olivia ordered. Ryan activated his console and dozens of small projectiles launched from the human ships. They moved seemingly slowly through space, then suddenly accelerated, passing through the Dravek shields as if they weren't there. Each one attached to a Dravek hull, then sent out electromagnetic pulses that disabled the ship's systems. 8 more enemy vessels disabled, Paul announced. The rest are breaking formation. Olivia leaned forward. They're running. Should we pursue? Asked her second in command. No. Let some escape. Let them tell the others what happened here. Olivia's expression was determined. The Dravek understand strength. Today we showed them ours. As the remaining Dravek ships fled, the 3 human vessels moved to secure the Epsilon system. The battle had lasted less than 20 minutes. Not a single human life had been lost. News of the victory spread quickly. Across human colonies, people celebrated. On Earth, President Nelson addressed a special session of the Planetary Council. Today marks a turning point, he said. For too long, we accepted the Council's rules even as they failed to protect us. No more. The defeat of the Dravek fleet at Epsilon proves what we've always known. Humanity will defend itself, and we will prevail. But in the Galactic Council chamber, the mood was very different. Councillor Brack, the Dravek representative, pounded his clawed fist on the speaking podium. This is an outrage, he bellowed, his scaled skin flushing dark with anger. Humans have destroyed Council vessels without provocation. Grand Council Chair Zenfi raised a hand for silence. According to reports, your ships were moving to attack a human mining colony. This hardly qualifies as without provocation. We were conducting a security operation in response to human aggression, Brock insisted. The Council must act. The humans possess weapons far beyond what they reported. They have violated countless technology restrictions. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Council members discussed this revelation. The humans had always presented themselves as technologically modest, focusing on trade and exploration rather than military power. Now it seemed that had been a deception. Grand Arbiter Tlacon moved to the center of the chamber. I move that the humans be officially classified as a dangerous primitive species requiring containment. Their deception proves they cannot be trusted in galactic society. The motion passed with only a few dissenting votes, most from younger Council species like the Tellarites. The Council authorized a full military response against human territory. What they didn't know was that human intelligence agents were listening to every word. Within minutes, the information reached Admiral Ross aboard her flagship. So they've made it official, she said, looking at the report. The Council has declared us dangerous primitives. What now? Asked her Chief of Staff. Admiral Ross's expression was resolute. Now we show them just how dangerous we can be. Signal all fleet commanders. It's time for Phase 2. On board the Retribution, Captain Olivia Grant received the new orders and called her officers together. The Council has authorized force against all human holdings, she told them. They believe they're punishing us. Instead, they've freed us from the last restrictions on our response. She looked at each of them in turn. Prepare the ship for deep strike operations. We're taking the fight to them. As human ships throughout the galaxy prepared for action, the Council was about to learn a harsh lesson. Declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake they had ever made. The moment humans abandoned peace, the Galactic Council knew disaster was coming. Part 5. The Galactic Lesson. General Laura Scott stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching the holographic display of human forces spreading across the galaxy. Red dots represented Council ships and installations. Blue dots showed human vessels. Green indicated neutral or potentially friendly species. For 3 weeks, human forces had conducted precise strikes against Council military assets. They had disabled patrol ships, neutralized weapons platforms, and disrupted communication systems, all without a single civilian casualty on either side. Status report, Laura said to her officers. All objectives in sectors 1 through 7 are complete, replied her second-in-command. The Council fleet at Procyon is in disarray. Their communication network is down in 12 systems. What about the Starfall protocol? Dr. Wright reports it's ready for activation. Laura nodded. Dr. Kevin Wright was Earth's leading expert on faster-than-light travel. For years, he had studied the technology that allowed ships to move between stars. Now he had found a way to temporarily disable it. "Tell him to proceed," Laura ordered. In a secure laboratory deep beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Wright activated the device he had been developing for over a decade. It sent out a special type of wave that disrupted the specific subspace field that FTL drives use to function. The wave spread at many times the speed of light, washing over the entire Council space within hours. Across thousands of star systems, FTL drives suddenly stopped working. Council ships found themselves stranded wherever they happened to be. Their vast interconnected empire fragmented into isolated pockets overnight. On the Council's central world, Grand Council Chair Zenfi stared in disbelief at the reports flooding in. "Impossible," she whispered. "No species has this level of technology." "The humans do," said her advisor, "and they've been careful. Notice that the effect doesn't prevent basic life support or planetary systems from functioning. Only FTL travel is affected." "They've effectively crippled us without firing a shot," Zenfi realized. "But why? If they have this power, why not simply destroy us?" The answer came in the form of a transmission that broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in Council space. Diego Martinez, Earth's diplomatic envoy, appeared on screens everywhere. "People of the Galactic Council," he began, "for too long your leaders have ruled through deception and manipulation. They claim to promote peace while allowing the strong to prey on the weak. They speak of cooperation while plotting to contain those they fear." The broadcast then showed evidence of the Council's complicity in the Dravek attacks on human colonies. It revealed private communications between elder Council members discussing how to keep younger species dependent on their protection. It exposed secrets that had been buried for centuries. "Today we offer a choice," Diego continued. "Continue to follow leaders who see you as pawns, or join us in creating a true galactic community based on mutual respect and genuine peace." The broadcast ended, human ships appeared in orbit around the Council homeworld. At their head was the Defiance, Admiral Ross's flagship. General Scott's image appeared before the Council chamber. "Your military assets have been neutralized," she stated calmly. "Your FTL capability will remain disabled until negotiations are complete. We await your response." In panic, several Council members called for immediate surrender. Others demanded resistance at any cost. Grand Council Chair Zenfi raised her hands for silence. "It seems we have underestimated the humans," she said. "But notice, when they have not fired upon this world, they have not harmed civilians. Even now they speak of negotiations." "They're barbarians," shouted Councillor Brack. "They attacked without provocation, did they?" Zenfi turned to the Dravek representative. "Or did we provoke them by allowing your species to massacre their colonies?" Before Brack could respond, Ambassador Valara stepped forward. "Many younger Council species wish to hear what the humans propose. We have lived too long under the shadow of the elder races, told we needed their protection, their guidance. Perhaps it is time for change." Over the next several days, representatives from Earth met with Council delegates. At the center of the discussions was a new galactic charter that would replace the old Council structure. "We don't seek to dominate," explained President Nelson in a direct communication with Grand Council Chair Zenfi. "We want a galaxy where every species, old or young, has an equal voice. Where technology is shared, not restricted. Where strength is used to protect, not control." "And if we refuse?" Zenfi asked. "Then we will go our separate ways," Nelson replied. "We will protect our territory and our allies. The starfall effect will be lifted, but know that we can reactivate it at any time." It was not an idle threat. Already 17 younger Council species had declared their support for the human proposal. The old order was crumbling. On the 10th day, Grand Council Chair Zenfi called for a vote. By a narrow margin, the Council agreed to negotiate a new charter. The alternative, a fractured galaxy with humans leading a separate alliance, was too dangerous to contemplate. 1 month later, Human and council representatives gathered on neutral ground, a beautiful garden world that had never been colonized. There, they signed the new Galactic Charter. It guaranteed equal representation for all spacefaring species. It established mutual defense pacts and free exchange of non-military technology. Most importantly, it created a system of checks and balances to prevent any group of species from dominating the others. As Dr. Wright deactivated the Starfall Protocol, allowing FTL travel to resume throughout the galaxy, Admiral Ross stood with General Scott on the observation deck of the Defiance. "Do you think it will last?" Scott asked, watching the diplomats below. "Peace?" Ross considered the question. "It will if everyone understands what we've proven here." "Which is?" "That peace works only when everyone values it equally." Admiral Ross looked out at the stars. "We abandon peace not because we love war, but because sometimes you must fight to create a lasting peace." On the planet below, President Nelson signed the final document and shook hands with Grand Council Chair Zenfi. "I hope we never have to remind you of our strength again," he said quietly. "I believe the lesson has been learned," Zenfi replied. "Though I wonder, if we had discovered your true capabilities sooner, would things have been different?" Nelson smiled slightly. "That's the paradox, isn't it? To maintain peace, one must be prepared for war. Humans understood that. Now it seems, so does the galaxy." As the ceremony concluded, news of the new charter spread across thousands of worlds. For some, it brought anxiety about an uncertain future. For others, especially the younger species, it brought hope for a more equal galaxy. The humans had changed everything, not through conquest, but by showing that true strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to stand for what is right. And in doing so, they had transformed from newcomers into leaders of a new galactic order, one built on the understanding that lasting peace requires both wisdom and strength.